If you are watching this video, I already know something about your situation. Somewhere in the last few weeks, maybe the last few months, someone you care about started to pull back. Maybe the texts got shorter, maybe the plans got vaguer, maybe they used to initiate, and now you're the one initiating. And every time you reach out, you get this polite, distant version of them that feels nothing like the person you fell for. And you're sitting there, replaying conversations, wondering what you did wrong, wondering if you moved too fast, said too much, needed too much. I want you to hear this clearly before we go any further. You are not crazy and you are not too much. What you are dealing with, most likely, is an avoidant attachment pattern, and it behaves in ways that feel completely illogical if you don't understand the mechanics underneath it. So today, I want to walk you through exactly what brings an avoidant back, if they come back at all, because I'm not going to sit here and promise you a guarantee. Nobody can promise you that. What I can tell you, after years of watching this pattern play out in real relationships, is that there is one thing, one shift, that determines almost everything about whether an avoidant partner re-engages. And it is not the thing most women are taught to do. Let's start with what avoidant attachment actually is, because I think a lot of people throw this word around without really understanding it. Somewhere early in life, usually in childhood, a person learns that closeness comes with a cost. Maybe a parent was intrusive, maybe a parent was emotionally unavailable, maybe love in that house came with conditions or unpredictability. The nervous system of a child adapts to survive its environment, and if closeness felt dangerous or overwhelming, that child grows into an adult whose body registers intimacy as a threat, even when their mind wants connection. This is the part people miss. Avoidants are not cold. Avoidants are not incapable of love. Most of them want deep connection more than almost anything. But their nervous system treats that closeness the way your body treats a hot stove. It pulls back before you even consciously decide to. That's why you'll see an avoidant partner get closer and closer to you, start to feel really good, start to feel safe, and then suddenly do something that seems designed to create distance. It's not designed, it's automatic, it's a trained reflex, not a decision made at a dinner table. Now here's where it gets important for you. When someone you love starts to pull away, your nervous system does the opposite thing. If you lean anxious at all, and many women who end up with avoidant partners do lean anxious, your body reads distance as danger too, but in the opposite direction. Instead of pulling back, you move forward. You want to close the gap. You want reassurance, you want clarity, you want to talk about what's going on, you want them to tell you everything is fine. This is completely understandable. It's also, unfortunately, the single most common reason avoidants stay gone instead of coming back. Think about it from their side for a second. An avoidant partner pulls back because being close started to feel like too much, too fast, too consuming. Their system needs room to breathe. And in that exact moment, what do they usually get instead? Messages, calls, questions like, "Did I do something wrong?" Or "Why are you being distant?" Or "Can we talk about us?" Every one of those messages, even if it's calm and reasonable on the surface, confirms the exact fear that made them pull back in the first place. It tells their nervous system, see, this is what closeness leads to: pressure, obligation, someone needing something from me. So the pursuit that feels like the only logical response to you, the response any caring, engaged partner would have, is often the exact thing that pushes an avoidant further into their shell. This is the trap almost every woman falls into, not because she's doing anything wrong as a person, but because she's using a strategy built for a securely attached partner on someone whose wiring works in the opposite direction. So if chasing doesn't work, what does? This is where I need you to really lean in, because the answer is not what you'll find in most generic advice. And it's definitely not ignore them and hope they miss you, which is manipulative and rarely holds up over time anyway. The one thing that actually brings an avoidant back, if anything does, is your own return to emotional regulation and a full life that does not orbit around their behavior. I want to say that again because it's the whole video in one sentence. Avoidants don't come back because you pursued harder, begged more clearly, or found the perfect words to convince them. They come back when they come back because the pressure disappeared and they were given room to miss you on their own terms while watching you continue to build a life that is genuinely appealing, calm, and whole, with or without them. Let's break down why this actually works, because I don't want you to just take my word for it. I want you to understand the mechanism. An avoidance nervous system relaxes around low-pressure environments. When you stop reaching for reassurance, stop asking what's going on, stop analyzing every text for hidden meaning, and instead redirect that same energy into your own life, your friendships, your work, your health, your joy, two things happen at once. First, the pressure that was triggering their retreat evaporates. There's no one on the other end demanding an explanation for their distance, so their system stops treating you as a source of stress. Second, and this is the part people underestimate, you become interesting again. Not through games, not through strategy, but because a woman who is regulated, engaged in her own life, and not waiting by the phone is simply a different energy to be around than one who is anxious, available at every hour, and visibly hurting. Avoidants are drawn to calm the way anyone is drawn to calm. They are repelled by intensity, not because intensity is bad, but because their bodies read it as demand. I want to be very careful here, because I know exactly what some of you are thinking right now. You're thinking, so I just have to pretend I'm fine and hope he notices. That is not what I'm telling you to do. And if that's the takeaway, we need to slow down. This is not a performance. This is not a trick where you fake being unbothered while secretly checking your phone every 4 minutes. If you do that, an avoidant will feel it, because avoidants are often extremely sensitive to incongruence. They grew up scanning for danger in relationships, so they read energy closely, even if they can't always name what they're picking up on. If your calm is fake, if it's a strategy layered over the same underlying anxiety, it will leak out and it won't work because it isn't actually regulation, it's suppression with a smile on top. So the real work here is not learning how to act calm. It's doing the internal work that makes you actually calm. That distinction matters more than almost anything else I'll say in this video. If your sense of self-worth, your mood, your ability to function during the day is currently tied to whether this person texts you back, that's the thing to address first, because no strategy, no perfect message, no amount of giving them space on paper is going to work if underneath it you're still white-knuckling your way through every hour, waiting for a notification. This is why I always tell women in this exact situation to start by getting radically honest about where their nervous system actually is right now. Are you sleeping normally? Are you able to focus at work? Are you checking your phone the second you wake up? Are you running scenarios in your head about what they're doing, who they're with, why they haven't reached out? If most of those are true, you are currently dysregulated, and dysregulated energy, no matter how well you try to hide it, is not attractive to an avoidant partner. It's not attractive to most partners, honestly, but it specifically triggers the avoidant's core fear, which is being responsible for someone else's emotional state. Here's the part that I think gets left out of most advice on this topic, and it's the part that actually matters most. Doing this work isn't just a means to an end where the prize is getting them back. I want you to hear that clearly. If your entire motivation for calming down and building your life is so that he'll come crawling back, you're still underneath it, orbiting around him. You've just gotten quieter about it. Real regulation happens when you start caring about your own life, because it's your life, not because it's bait. And here's the strange thing about that shift, the thing that almost nobody believes until they experience it themselves. The moment you stop needing the outcome, the anxiety that was leaking into every interaction with this person disappears. And what's left in its place is a version of you that is genuinely more magnetic, not because you're trying to be, but because people are drawn to those who seem whole. Now let's talk about what this actually looks like day to day, because I don't want to leave you with a philosophy and no practical shape to put it in. The first thing is to stop the pursuit completely for a period of time. Not as punishment, not as a game, but because pursuit is currently reinforcing the exact dynamic that isn't working. That means no double texting, no checking in, no sending a message, and then a follow-up when they don't respond fast enough. No asking mutual friends what they've heard. I know how hard this is when your whole body is telling you to reach out. That urge is real, and I'm not going to pretend it isn't uncomfortable to sit with. But every time you act on it, you're voting for the old pattern instead of the new one. The second thing is to fill the space that pursuit used to occupy with something real. This is not about performative self-care for an audience of one. This is about actually rebuilding a life that has texture outside of this relationship. See the friends you've been neglecting, Go back to the gym, or the hobby, or the creative project you dropped when this relationship became the center of gravity. Book something on the calendar that has nothing to do with them, something you're actually looking forward to. This matters for two reasons. It genuinely improves your emotional state, which lowers your baseline anxiety, and it means that if and when this person does resurface, you are not dropping everything to be available. You have a life happening, and they are welcome to be part of it if they show up the way a partner should, but you are not pausing your existence to wait. The third thing, and this is one people resist the most, is to get clear on your own standards, independent of whether this specific person meets them. A lot of women in this situation start negotiating with themselves. Maybe I don't need as much communication as I thought. Maybe it's fine if he only reaches out once a week. Maybe I'm the one who's too needy. I want you to notice when you're doing this, because it's a sign that anxiety is rewriting your standards in real time to make the current situation feel more tolerable. Your needs for consistency, communication, and emotional availability are not flaws to be negotiated away. They're information. If you find yourself shrinking your needs to match someone's current level of availability, pause and ask whether you're doing that because you've genuinely changed your mind, or because you're scared that holding your standard means losing them. Let's talk honestly about what might happen once you do all of this. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that every avoidant partner comes back once the pressure is removed, because that isn't true. And I don't want to give you a promise the reality doesn't support. Some avoidant partners were never actually available for a real relationship. And the pulling away you experienced wasn't a phase to move through. It was a fairly permanent expression of where they are in their own growth. Removing pressure and building your life doesn't create want out of nothing. What it does is remove the obstacles that were actively preventing genuine want from surfacing, if that want exists at all. Some avoidants, once the demand disappears, start to feel curious again. They notice you're not chasing. They notice, sometimes for the first time, that they miss you specifically, not just the comfort of being pursued. And because there's no pressure waiting on the other side, that missing feels like their own decision instead of an obligation, which is precisely the condition under which an avoidant nervous system can actually move towards someone instead of away. But I need you to sit with the other possibility too, because I think it's actually the more important one for your long-term well-being. Some avoidants don't come back, and if that happens, the work you did wasn't wasted, because you didn't do it purely as a strategy to reel someone in. You did it to become a person who isn't ruled by anxiety in relationships, who has a full life, who knows her own worth outside of anyone's attention. That version of you is going to serve you in every relationship going forward, not just this one. I say this because I don't want you leaving this video thinking of the next few weeks as a manipulation tactic aimed at one specific outcome. I want you leaving this video understanding that you are doing something that changes you, regardless of what this particular person decides to do with the space you've given them. There's one more layer to this that I think deserves real attention, and it's the question of timing and readiness on their end. Avoidants often need something to shift internally before they can move toward closeness again, and that shift is rarely something you can control or accelerate from the outside. Sometimes it's a life event that forces reflection. Sometimes it's simply time and distance, doing what constant contact never could, letting them miss the specific texture of being around you without the immediate discomfort of closeness clouding that feeling. This is why constant contact so often backfires. It never lets the missing happen because there's no gap for longing to live in. If you are always present, always available, always one message away, an avoidant never has to reckon with what life looks like without you, because you never actually leave the picture long enough for that reckoning to happen. I also want to address something a lot of women feel guilty about, which is the fear that stepping back and focusing on yourself means you don't care, or that you're playing games. Caring about someone and refusing to abandon your own emotional stability are not opposites. In fact, I'd argue the healthiest form of caring about someone includes caring enough about the relationship to not force it through pressure, because relationships built on pressure and pursuit tend to be fragile even when they technically work. What you actually want, if you're honest with yourself, isn't just for this person to come back. It's for them to come back and stay, to choose you consistently, not just in a single dramatic reunion moment, but in the ordinary days that follow. And that kind of staying only tends to happen when someone moves toward you because they genuinely want to, not because they were pressured or guilted into it. So let me bring this all the way back to where we started. If avoidants only come back if you do one thing, that one thing is not a clever text, not a perfectly timed silence used as leverage, not a strategy borrowed from a game plan. It's becoming someone whose emotional stability doesn't depend on their behavior and building a life substantial enough that you're not waiting for permission to feel good. That shift removes the exact pressure that triggers their retreat in the first place, and it puts you in a position where, whatever they decide, you're not left with nothing. You're left with yourself, rebuilt, regulated, and genuinely full, which is honestly the outcome worth wanting, regardless of how the other person responds. If you're in the middle of this right now, I know how disorienting it feels. The urge to reach out one more time, to ask one more question, to get one more piece of clarity is going to come back again and again over the next days and weeks. Every time it does, I want you to remember what we talked about today. The pursuit isn't the path back to them. The version of you that stops needing them to prove anything is. Focus there and let whatever happens next happen on its own terms, because that's the only version of this that actually has a chance of lasting, and the only version that leaves you better regardless of the outcome.